Missing plane found after decades. What they found inside is shocking. A dense wild jungle stretches as far as the eye can see. Sunlight filters through thick trees, casting dappled shadows across the undergrowth. It's an isolated place, a kind of untouched landscape few humans have ever set foot in. For Rick Dawson, a seasoned explorer with a knack for finding the impossible, this was supposed to be just another expedition. But today he's about to stumble on something he'll never forget. Pushing through the foliage, Rick suddenly stops. His heart skips a beat as he catches sight of something large and metallic hidden among the leaves. At first it looks like part of a hill, a strangely unnatural mound of metal lying half buried and rusted. But as he moves closer, he's realizing it's not just metal. It's a plane, and not just any plane. A World War II-era bomber, lying eerily still and weathered by time. Rick stands in silent awe, his gaze sweeping over the aircraft's broken wings and shattered glass. How did this relic end up here, untouched for decades? His mind races, piecing together possible stories. He's seen wreckage before, but nothing like this. This plane doesn't look like it was simply abandoned. It looks like it's been lost, hidden away by the jungle's dense embrace, forgotten by the world. His team joins him, equally stunned, their whispers hanging in the air. The bomber's frame is covered in vines and rust, blending almost seamlessly into the surrounding jungle. There's something haunting about it, as if it's trapped in time, waiting for someone to uncover its story. Welcome back to PlotTwister. Before we unravel today's mystery, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell so you're always in the loop. As they circle the plane, Rick notices details that make his skin prickle. A tattered insignia, a faint outline of numbers on the fuselage, and old, brittle paint that might once have been a bright, patriotic color. It's all faded now, eroded by years of rain and sun. But the plane's bones remain strong. Rick feels a chill despite the warmth of the jungle. What happened to this crew? Why did no one come looking for them? A quiet determination fills him. He knows they're standing on the edge of a mystery, one that might finally reveal answers long lost to history. Rick and his colleague Linda, a historian with a sharp eye for detail, cautiously approach the plane's hatch. The metal is worn and fragile, but with a little effort they manage to pry it open. A stale, musty smell drifts out, like the air has been trapped inside for decades. They exchange a glance, both feeling the weight of the moment. Taking a deep breath, Rick steps inside. The cockpit is eerily intact, like a ghostly snapshot frozen in time. Instruments are scattered, some still loosely attached to the dash. Rick runs his hand over the pilot's seat, where an old, frayed seatbelt hangs loosely. But there's no sign of the crew. No bodies, no trace of anyone who might have been sitting there all those years ago. It's as if they vanished, leaving everything behind. Moving further into the plane, Linda's eyes light up as she spots something. An old, tattered logbook lying on the floor near the cockpit. She picks it up carefully, brushing off dust and dirt. The pages are yellowed, but some writing is still visible. She scans the entries, finding notes on flight paths, coordinates, and weather conditions, written in neat, precise handwriting. Rick leans in, fascinated, as Linda reads aloud the last few entries. It's clear they were documenting something important. But what exactly? In the back of the plane, Rick spots a metal box, tucked under a seat as if hidden there intentionally. The box is locked, but rusted enough that a firm tug finally opens it. Inside, they find personal items. A pair of thick-rimmed glasses, a pocket watch, and a faded black and white photo of a group of men in uniform, smiling proudly at the camera. Rick picks up the photo, feeling an eerie connection with those long-lost faces. As they look around, Linda finds an envelope, addressed but never sent. She opens it carefully, revealing a letter full of heartfelt words. A message, maybe, to someone waiting back at home, someone who never got to hear from this crew again. A heavy silence fills the cabin. Each artifact, each scrap of paper and metal tells a story of people who once sat here, laughed here, dreamed of going home. But something unknown kept them from making it back. Rick's hands tremble slightly as he holds the small, weathered notebook they found tucked inside the metal box. The cover is battered, the edges frayed, but as he flips it open, the pages reveal entries written in hurried, cramped handwriting. Linda peers over his shoulder, her brow furrowing as they scan the words. The notes are filled with coordinates, Unusual sightings and strange phrases that don't seem to fit the standard routine of a bomber crew. They read an entry aloud. It speaks of something spotted in the skies, a flash of light that moved too fast, disappearing as quickly as it appeared. The words seem paranoid, frantic even, as if the writer wasn't just documenting, but warning. Rick's stomach tightens. This wasn't just a routine mission. Something else was happening here. Linda's voice breaks the silence, her tone laced with curiosity and unease. She suggests maybe they were on a classified mission, tracking something they weren't supposed to see. Rick nods slowly, but his mind is racing. Could the crew have been following something, or was something following them? They turn back to the logbook, finding more scattered notes that add to the mystery. There are references to strange radio signals, bursts of static that seem to interfere with their equipment. The entries grow more disjointed, more urgent, as if the crew was piecing together a puzzle they didn't fully understand. Rick feels a chill run down his spine as he reads the final pages. The last entry stops mid-sentence, as if cut off in the middle of a thought. Linda picks up the photo they'd found earlier, looking at the faces of the men. She wonders aloud about what kind of desperation would drive them to abandon the plane without taking their belongings. Rick's gaze drifts back to the empty cockpit, and he feels a growing unease. It's as if the plane itself holds on to the tension, the fear that must have gripped those men in their final moments. They exchange a glance, each feeling the weight of something unspoken. Rick's mind races with theories, each one darker than the last. The idea that these men had been documenting something dangerous, perhaps even unknown, sinks in. He feels a strange dread, the feeling that whatever haunted this crew still lingers in the silence surrounding them. Rick's flashlight flickers as he steps toward the back of the plane, feeling drawn to a small, sealed compartment, half hidden under layers of dust and debris. He and Linda pry it open, the latch giving way with a creak, revealing a set of crates stacked neatly inside. They're marked with bold red letters, Top Secret. Rick's pulse quickens. He wasn't expecting this. As he opens the first crate, Rick finds objects he doesn't immediately recognize. Equipment that looks more advanced than anything he'd ever seen from that era. Wires, strange metal parts, and a large device with dials and knobs, unlike anything used in standard aircraft. Linda leans closer, inspecting the markings, her breath catching when she spots an insignia stamped on the side. It's from a military division known for experimental technology during the war, one rumored to have been involved in secret projects. Linda's eyes widen as she realizes the implications. This wasn't a typical bomber crew. They were likely involved in a covert mission, carrying equipment that was never meant to be discovered. Rick can feel the weight of the find pressing down on him. Every piece of technology, every strange device, feels like a breadcrumb leading them deeper into a mystery he's not sure he wants to understand. In another crate, they find maps, not of combat zones, but of remote, uninhabited regions far from any documented battlefield. The markings and routes don't make sense to them, as if the crew had been charting locations off the grid. Rick's mind races with questions. Why would they be flying here, so far from anywhere? What were they trying to find? Or maybe to escape? As he stares at the equipment and the maps, Rick's imagination runs wild. He thinks of the frantic notebook entries, the sightings of strange lights, the interference on the radio. It all feels connected, as if this plane had been chasing or running from something unknown. A deep sense of unease settles over him. This wasn't just a crash. This was a mission buried in secrecy, shrouded in danger. Rick realizes that whatever they've uncovered was meant to stay hidden, lost to the world forever. And now standing here in the silence of the jungle, he feels as though he's trespassing on something far bigger than he ever anticipated. Outside the plane, Rick notices something he missed before. Faint, weathered footprints leading away from the wreck. The prints are old, barely visible, but unmistakable. Someone had left the plane and walked into the dense jungle. He and Linda follow the trail, their steps slow and careful, feeling as though they're retracing the final path of someone who had been desperate to survive. After a short walk, they come upon a small makeshift shelter hidden nearby the thick canopy. It's little more than a crude lean-to, half collapsed, but inside they find scraps of paper and tattered fabric. Rick kneels down, sifting through the remains, when he spots something that catches his eye. A notebook, smaller and more worn than the one in the plane. The cover is scrawled with the same frantic handwriting they'd seen before. Rick opens it, and his heart sinks as he reads. The entries tell of the crew's last days, a tale of fear and confusion as they tried to survive, haunted by something they couldn't understand. The writer, who identifies himself as Captain James Lawson, describes how they'd encountered strange objects in the sky, things that moved with impossible speed. They tried to evade them, but the plane's instruments began to fail and static filled the radio. In the end, they were forced to crash land in this remote jungle, hoping they could go undetected. Lawson's writing grows more frantic with each page. He speaks of watching lights in the night, of hearing strange sounds just beyond the tree line. The crew had felt they were being followed, watched by something unseen. Rick's throat tightens as he reads Lawson's final shaky words, a desperate plea scribbled in fading ink. The captain believed that whatever they had encountered in the skies had followed them to the ground. And now, trapped and isolated, they felt their only choice was to hide or run. Rick closes the notebook, his mind racing with implications. Whatever happened here, it was something that defied explanation. Something that had driven an entire crew to the brink. Standing in the silence of the jungle, he feels an unexpected calm. This crew, these brave men, would finally be remembered. Their story, hidden for decades, would now be known. As Rick and Linda made their way back to the plane, a quiet sense of peace settles over them, knowing they've brought closure to a mystery that once seemed destined to remain lost forever. What are your thoughts on the twist we uncovered today? Comment your ideas below. Make sure to like and subscribe for a daily dose of drama and mystery. See you later with another twist.